Ladies and gentlemen, the topic for this session is Gastronomy Tourism, the unexplored USP of India. Gastronomy tourism is still a small chunk of the pie. In India, until a decade ago, culinary tourism was still a concept unknown for the Indian subcontinent. Known for its unique flavors and spices, Indian cuisine is extremely popular globally. With the evolution of the tourism sector in India, gastronomy tourism is one of the niches which is yet to be explored. India has a great potential to be a hub of gastronomy tourism as we are a country of so many cultures and each culture having its own food. Both domestic and international tourists are more open to exploring cities for its. We begin the proceedings of this session by introducing our eminent panelists. On the panel today, we have with us Professor Arun Singh, who's principal at IHM Mumbai, Maharashtra. Mr. Manjit Gill, who's a corporate chef at ITC Hotels, Gurgaon, India. We have on the panel with us Dr. Ashish Chopra, a culinary historian, government author, culinary advisor, travel XP and food XP channel principal, culinary advisor, Signum Resorts, New Delhi. Is the former executive director of the Institute of Environmental Management and Social Development. He is also the former honorary advisor to the governor of Mizoram and the former social development advisor to Assam Rifles. He is a PhD in conflict management and has published various papers on international relations, development, conflict management, culture, and cuisine. He is now spending his time as a culinary historian and food critic and consultant for travel and writer photographer. We have on the panel with us today our student panelist, Ms. Kavya Kotikal, who is the fourth-year bachelor's in hotel management BHM student from Welcome Group, Graduate School of Hotel Administration, Mahe, Manipal. With a keen interest in the F&B industry and the subject food and beverage studies as a whole, she aspires to imbibe the knowledge and this industry imparts. She is highly determined and extremely diligent in her professional endeavors, longing to see herself delve and adjust in this vast industry, inspiring hoteliers and the business professionals. We have on the panel with us Ms. Sonal Saxena, who is the Managing Director of Eat with India. In her view, every crisis is an opportunity, and the COVID-19 pandemic has forced us to think differently in the tourism sector. Students graduating now have the unique opportunity to be entrepreneurs and creators of their own destiny. Almost every city of India has a food and travel industry which needs local entrepreneurs to come forward and fill the gap. On the panel we have with us today Mr. Sudhir Sibal, who is an independent hospitality professional, ex-vice president hotels at ITDC New Delhi. And we have with us Mr. Kalyan Karmakar, who is an award-winning food writer and a published author. He has graduated in sociology honors from Kolkata Presidency College before doing the MBA in marketing, a training which held him in good stead both as a market researcher and later as a food writer. He started his career in market research in 1997 after completing his MBA and has worked in leading multinational research agencies such as IMRB International, the Nelson Company and TNS India. He is popular food columnist, author of The Travelling Belly and curator of the Times Kitchen Tales for Times of India. He runs Finely Chopped Consulting, a specialized consumer and market insights offering in the food space and brings together the two worlds of being consumer, market researcher and a food writer. And ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished moderator for this session, Mr. Prateek Hira, is the founder, president, and CEO of Tornos, an experiential travel company that prides itself in being a micro-destination management company operating since 1994 and catering in specific geographic areas and offering a knowledge-based product. His other venture includes Indian Frontiers, which is India-centric specialist tour operator catering to the theme of British in India from 1957 to 1947. Other two ventures of his, Gastroutes and River Rhapsody, two are specialist and focused pan-India brands. Gastroutes specialize in gastronomy tours, and River Rhapsody owns and operates luxury small boat tours and riverside glamping in India. He is also the chapter chairman of IATO, Indian Association of Tour Operators of the states of Uttar Pradesh and Uttarakhand. And ladies and gentlemen, may I now hand over to Mr. Prateek Hira to kindly carry forward the proceedings of the session. Over to you, sir.
Of course, we have a very celebrated panel on the subject of gastronomy. And, there was a time when gastronomy or cuisine, we were very loyal to our cuisine and food. I mean, if you see people who are 60 plus, and they are so loyal that they don't want to experiment, maybe our grandparents, finally, it's a kind of a comfort food that they want to fall back on when they are traveling to US or something. It's said that Biharis carry their sattu along or something. So that's a kind of a food loyalty that we have. But that doesn't mean that we are entering into an infidelity kind of thing with our food, but we are only experimenting because we have now we have more access to information, we have become more curious about things, and we have so many options. So when we were growing up, so of course burgers or sandwiches were the only things, or a bit of indie Chinese food that we would get at a stand-alone restaurant, which we thought was Chinese. And later on, when we gradually developed understanding, and then we probably came to know, oh, we weren't eating Chinese. Even Chinese don't know what we were eating, but we called it Chinese. So that was the food kind of intervention that happened. Now, having said that, food is also a complex subject. We haven't seen food. Food is not a simple subject. It has grown. The kitchens in the hotels have sort of evolved. They have become modern, and a lot of international intervention has gone in. So, and then innovations and recipes and what you call molecular sort of things, and these fancy words that have entered into food arena. But finally, we are talking about a destination which is India, which is diverse, and I think food is one subject where diversity can be viewed best. And we have on this panel chefs and chef in the making, and people who make chefs as well. So they would understand things, how things have evolved in the food and beverage industry, especially the production side. I mean, I would say service side as well, the entire hotel industry, but primarily in food, where people are choosy, where people have become finicky, and more so now after the COVID, when the lockdown was there. I think we have made most chefs during this period. So everybody became a chef, and he's trying to post pictures. But then the positive side is, or call it a negative side for the hoteliers and the restaurants, that these are the people who now have tastes, who now understand what food is. So be prepared for a lot of challenge that these new customers post-COVID or now are going to pose. There's a very interesting, I was in one webinar recently, and where Ranveer Barar said very nice thing. He said that till people eat and drink, people connected to food will never go out of business. They will never lose jobs, which is so relevant, in these times. So that was a very nice thing that I thought I should repeat in this webinar as well. Now, let us try to understand briefly what is gastronomy tourism. Everybody is talking about it. So for the first time, in fact, I would say when I was preparing for this discussion and panel, I looked into the definition of gastronomy in the Cambridge Dictionary. Before that, frankly speaking, I did not ever see the definition. Now, the definition reads, the art and knowledge involved in preparing and eating good food is gastronomy. So then what is, this is gastronomy, of course. We all knew, but this is the definition. The art of not only preparing, but eating good food too, and the knowledge about the food. And then gastronomy tourism translates into when food becomes an attraction, which is happening. You will be surprised to know that there is a full 53% traveler market, which only travels for food. They are gastronomy tourists world over. Their primary focus is food and nothing else. This is a surprising data. 80% of travelers who travel out of their places first go onto the internet, research about food in that place, about the places to eat, and then, so they are informed travelers, much more informed travelers. There is about 25% of expenditure of an average tourist which goes into food when he's traveling to some location. And food, gastronomy travel, gastronomy tourism involves everything. It's not only about fine dine restaurants, it is about standalones, it is the street vendors, it is also temples, it is gurudwaras, it is not only royal cuisine, but it is also humble home cooked food, which people want to try as because it's an experience that they want to gain. We are already in an era of experiential travel. So on this, we have a very celebrated panel today, a very well-informed and knowledgeable panel today. So let me first bring in Mr. Arun Singh, who is the principal IHM and has worked extensively in the arena of food. So Mr. Arun Singh, my first question to you would be, when these children, when these students come to your institutes, IHM or whatever, hotel management institutes or food production institutes, what do you see as a teacher in them where you understand that बड़े होके ये नाम रोशन करेगा, जिसको कहते हैं कि पूत के जो पांव हैं वो पालने में नजर आ जाते हैं. So what is that? What are those few things that you see or differentiate between a chef and a successful chef? Mr. Arun Singh, over to you.
Thank you. So since we are mainly running the BSc program, which is a 3-year duration, so the students who are coming to us, gradually they upgrade themselves. We try to organize some kind of events, like in IHM Mumbai from last 3-4 years, we are organizing annual food trade and food show, that is Cornucopia. So that event is being organized by the student. Mr. Kalyan was there in that event earlier. So when that opportunity, we give it to the 3rd year, 2nd year and 1st year students to understand, to feel that how important they are being organizing an event, how responsible they can be. And once we see it grows from the 1st year to 2nd year and 3rd year, accordingly the responsibility should be there. So these some kind of tests or some kind of motivation, but some of the important qualities that we need to have in a person who want to grow up as a successful chef. One is there should be a creativity. He should not blindly follow the system that is being there. He should always be a creative. And then the next one is the commitment and patience. They should, because when I came here in IHM Mumbai 2013, and when we started organizing Cornucopia, I saw even at 9, 11, 30, even after that, the students are working in the kitchen 3 days prior or 1 week prior to the event, because they involve themselves into the activity. It's not that the teacher is standing in front of them all the time on their head. So they are giving full commitment to the cause for which they have been chosen, and then they should have a passion to the craft. It is not that when the teacher will say, then they will do it. They are coming out with their own experiment. They are doing at home. They are doing it here, and then they should be ready to accept the constructive criticism. It's not all the time you are successful. You need to understand what others are saying, try to improve upon, and along with that, the leadership quality should always be there, and initiative ability should be there. For example, from the first year only, we identify about 40 students who are mainly interested in the kitchen. We shape them, we train them, we send to the hotel. Sometimes we call the executive. Some people here, like you'll be surprised to know that the Thai consulate, the in charge of deputy of the Thai consulate in India, he's basically a chef. He came to our kitchen for 7 days and he trained the student in Thai food. Same thing with the Swiss consulate. They sent a chef from Switzerland here to train the students. Although the students who are really keen for that, we try to identify from them beginning, and it is, believe me, it is not very difficult. It is very visible if we out though when we were a student in IHM Lucknow way back in 1984, we have 40 students. Now in IHM Mumbai, we have 400 students. But choosing best out of the 40 or best out of 400 doesn't make much difference, because those people will slowly come on the top. And once they are, you try to identify them, we identify in terms of the kitchen, we identify in terms of marketing, and then the cornucopia that we are organizing, it's basically event organized by the institute. You'll be surprised to know it will be a 2-day event only. And in last 4 years, every day in 2-day event, we had a sale of about 7 to 8 lakh of the items which are costing 150 rupees or 100 rupees from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. Both days, I am so nervous that there should not be too much crowd in the area which is available. So overcrowding should not be there. Police intervention, the other thing should not be there. But fortunately, most of the people who are coming to us, they are the basically alumni of the institute, family of the students, and so all of them are very cooperative. And we make a sale of 8 lakh rupees. And but from the very beginning, we keep the thing in a tight way. When we meet with the student, we said we don't have any fund. You have to generate the money to sustain this event. Though, and we do our planning at the back from the government of India, from the state government, we get the reasonable fund. And for example, every year we are saving about 7 to 8 lakh rupees out of these 2 days event after meeting the expenses. An entire thing is being organized by the students. We are just guiding them. And the people who have been identified from the first year, about 40 to 60 students out of that is identified. They will be good in the kitchen, they will be good in the marketing, then F&B service team. And slowly, once they move from first year to second year to third year, our work become very less. We have to only talk and motivate those leaders who are looking after the kitchen charge chef. I remember 2 years back when my chairperson, principal secretary tourism, he came here. He said that I think twice before coming here. I had some appointment meeting, but I thought I'm tired. Should I go or not? But when he came here, he saw about 150 dishes which has been displayed. He asked me 3 times, "Is it prepared by the students? Or you have some professional people who are doing it?" So we told him, the student. Then he didn't believe me. He talked with that team about the dishes because he's a widely traveled person, so about the dishes. And the next day morning, he has on WhatsApp, he has written about 30-35 lines about the effort that a student has done. So that we are very touched with that. So these students, basically, it's for us to identify their skill. And Mr. Kalyan is here. I am in very close touch with the other things like the hotels or the other association like Food Bloggers Association of India. So we will talk about that. So these are the 7 qualities that we want. We see in the student, we try to inculcate that, we try to move them. And believe me, the students are coming out of themselves only. We need not to push them. They prove themselves and then come on finally. All of them who are there in that team, mainly in the kitchen, are being selected as management training. Though this year the placement is badly affected because of the COVID, but we are happy to say that about 60% of the companies who have selected a student from us, they retained them. 10% of them have said that they delayed them, they defer the recruitment for some time, and 20% because of situation, they are not in position to recruit that. But again, if the capability of the students are there, we are getting in the marketing. Because first thing at this point of time is to get a job. So about 20 students have been selected in the marketing last week only. So which is a remarkable achievement in this era when the people are losing jobs, the freshers are getting the job, maybe in the marketing. So because their placement has been delayed for some time, they will work for 6 months or so, they will take the decision. So it's a right quality that should be there in the institute, and we have a very learned and very experienced devoted faculty in the institute. They are doing all effort, and that's why you will see most of the chefs starting from Sanjeev Kapoor to Ranveer Brar to anyone, you will find most of themselves. Sudhir Sibal sir, we are here. So all of them are from the catering college. So it's not only the knowledge or skill is being given in the catering institute. It is being given just one kind of atmosphere, commitment, and passion, and which they lead in their lives and successful lives. Mr. Sibal in the industry.
Very interesting, Mr. Singh. I think passion is the key word that a student needs to have when he is entering into any hotel management course or travel and tourism management course. But then institutes nurture that passion and they develop very nice point. Yeah, now let me come to Dr. Ashish Chopra, who's a food historian, a very interesting profession to be in. And I envy you, Ashish, for this. So you probably get into understanding food, diving into food history, basically, from where it comes and from how it developed and how it became ours and all those things, which is very interesting. So just, I had a curiosity. What about regional cuisine of it? I mean, I as correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recognize any cuisine as Indian cuisine because there's no such cuisine as Indian cuisine, but it is so diversified that you have so many regions, you have so many, even tribal cuisine. So these are very interesting things that one can research on. So my question would be that why is the food research or food knowledge about regional cuisine so low in India? And how do we sort of develop or inculcate this interest among the budding students or the new generation to come into this field and deep dive and understand it more and popularize it more? Over to you, Ashish.
See, thank you, Pradeep. It's very important for any food history to be, for any student of cuisine to understand the history and the story behind it. If you do not understand the history and the story behind it, I don't think you will be able to understand the food at all, because we as a diverse nation have so much of diversity that every dish has a story to tell. How it was created, from where it came, how it was originated, whether it's tribal cuisine. This country is multi-religious. Each religion has its festivals. Multi-community. We have 400 plus tribes. Each one has their own identity. Food becomes an integral part of their identity. You see, we must remember one thing. Feasting is an essential part of our lives. When you're born, there's a feast, right? You celebrate it with a feast. When you achieve your first birthday, you end up with a feast, right? Whichever success, there's always a feast. You remember your ancestors, there's a feast. When you're thanking God, there's a feast. When you're going to temples everywhere, there's always a feast. So feasting is an integral part of our lives. When you're doing politics, there's dinner diplomacy. Let's be very honest. I mean, I'm coming to talk to those things. What Sonal is also being, we were talking royal families. Every royal family would take pride in showcasing its food and the diversity it has. Multiple states you go to, whether it's Tripura or Rajasthan or Gujarat or elsewhere or Bengal or wherever, each community takes a pride, an integral part. But a lot of us do not know that each dish has a story to tell, and each dish is based and is created on the regional climate, and subject to availability. Obviously, if you're in a desert land, the food will evolve around what is immediately available. If you're in a mountainous region, food will evolve around what is available. Food also has a lot of medicinal values subject to what you're doing in R&D. So for a food historian who has an unending quest to know what is the story behind the food, it is imperative and important for me that if I'm traveling everywhere, I must go to the source to see what the food is all. What is the story? To understand cuisine in a complete sense, it is mandatory that I must understand the background. you know, the availability. And why, if certain things were brought from outside, why was it showcased? So food, I think, is very important, and especially for our food, for our students of hospitality, they must understand food. If they will not understand, they will not be able to be perfect hospitality people, because uh, food evolves around comfort, hospitality evolves around stay, food, and everything. And if I go to a fancy restaurant tomorrow, if I ask the person, I will not go to the chef first, right? I will go to the first person of contact who will be serving me. First thing I'm going to ask him, भैया ये dish कहाँ से बनी है? ये क्या इसकी story है? If he doesn't know and suddenly gets worked up and says, अच्छा मैं पूछ के आया, right? So that is not the. I personally feel that most of our chefs in India, half of them, because they are not able to go to the source, they think Google is the easy way out. They don't realize the importance that unless and until you don't go to the source, you will not be even 20% correct on the authentic flavors. Number one. Food flavors vary. Why my latest book, which I've just finished, is on tribal cuisines of India. My wife and I traveled over 5.5 lakh kilometers pan India over a period of 8 lakhs, going to almost 300 plus tribes documenting food. I was shocked, beyond imagination, that the amount of diversity they had. Every tribe, their local alcohol, the food, the festivity, because their life evolves around food. Most of them practice animism. And if they are practicing animism, they live in harmony with nature. And if you're living in harmony with nature, they balance whatever is available from the forest and whatever is available otherwise, and create those dishes which are not only fulfilling but also healthy and also delectable to the palate. So I think it is very, very imperative that we understand food from its grasp. Of course, food has evolved in the country. Multiple invasions took place as food people came in from outside. You see climate change. For example, I'll give you a small example of Northeast people. How many people other than Northeast India or within the Northeast people also knew about each other's cuisines? Till such time, a lot of them started migrating to various towns and cities. Today, you will find Naga restaurants, you will find Manipuri restaurants in most of the metro cities because they're all working here. How many of us actually understood the concept of litti meat or litti chokha unless and until the laborers had not come in, right? So everything was confined to within the area. So whenever there are multiple cultures that come into the cities, obviously cuisine also evolves. Similarly, whenever the invaders came in, they brought with them different kinds of cuisine. So it amalgamated with the local food. As it is, they created a sort of a fusion. So whatever the fusion they were creating became very authentic because it lasted for too long. And that is what my perception is about food history is. And food history is never ending. You see, when you have that quest, you don't realize that every time you go out, you think you know something, you realize that what a novice you are. Every time there's a new story, it fascinates you. So it's a never-ending quest. I think this journey is continuing, and it's very important that students, especially the culinary students, should be introduced to the subject of food history, and it should be a mandatory subject. This is what I feel.
Yeah, that's a great input. And diversity is so much that माँ और मासी के हाथ की बनी हुई भिंडी भी अलग अलग होती है. Though they are sisters, but the way they cook bhindi, that is also different. So that's the kind of diversity we have in food. So now let me come to Kalyan Karmakar, who is a food blogger and he does a lot of stories. So taking clue from Ashish's point, in terms of blogging, in terms of popularizing the food, in terms of creating a wow factor around the food, how important do you think are the stories around it? I mean, each dish has a story. I mean, because I was watching one of your videos, which I would like you to repeat for our young audience here about the biryani in Calcutta that, I mean, I belonging to Lucknow and so fond of biryani. I didn't know about this, unique kind of biryani which was made in Calcutta. Over to you, Ashish. So it's about blogging. So let our students know that this is also a very, very important kind of a career after studying hotel management or food production, that they can go into some sort of a food research and blogging and, understanding the stories behind it. And equally, it's important when they are serving food. Over to you.
Thanks, Prateek. Those are really lovely questions and great to meet the panel here. In fact, I must tell Mr. Arun Singh that just this morning I was speaking with a former student of his whom I'd met at Cornucopia for the first time, a chef who now is working with a company. He's 2-3 years into his career, which is into curating food stories and creating food. So I think the spirit which he was trying to inculcate is definitely showing. It's great to sort of listen to Mr. Ashish Chopra finally, because I've heard so much about him. We've never interacted, and I think that the question which you asked him is a great segue for me as well, because you were asking him about why is it that there's such low awareness of Indian regional food. So I would like to say that, and your question on the biryani, you'd be interested to know that people in Mumbai, people like say Kunal Vijayakar or Kuruj Dalal, they don't consider either your or my biryani as biryani. They say that what you get in Lucknow or what you get in Kolkata is a pulao. What you get in Mumbai or Hyderabad is the biryani. And that I'll leave to Chef Manjit Gill, because his hotels make my favorite biryani in the city now, the Dampuk Awadhi mutton biryani. So, we see, when we were growing up, which was in the 80s and 90s, biryani was such an integral thing to us as students, because that's the first time or first place where we could go as a student and eat, like rather than without our parents. And, that was what biryani meant to us. It was a stepping stone to adulthood. We did not know at that time that there was someone called Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, and he'd come to Calcutta because of the British, and he was responsible for introducing the potatoes, either because he was short of money, or now people are saying because he found it exotic. So, we just ate. But it's in the recent years that one has got to know all these stories. And like all of you have been really saying, I think that these stories are what embellish our plates. And what has really made a big difference, and I strongly believe, because I've been, yesterday was the 13th anniversary of my blog. So I actually started writing my blog, finally chopped 13 years back on the 7th of October. So it might not be yesterday when it this thing. But I strongly feel that the blogging and the subsequent social media movement in food has played a great role in democratizing food and spreading the knowledge of regional Indian food. And let me explain why. So if I look at food writing in the 90s, early 2000s, even 80s, what we'd seen, it was limited to a few newspapers and publications, and there were a few journalists, often who are not from the food beat. Like if you see all the stalwarts, like Veer Sanghvi is a journalist. Vikram Doctor was an advertising person. Behram Contractor, again, an advertising person. So no specialized food people, but great writers, great journalists, great storytellers, story seekers. But there were only so many of them, right? So there were maybe like less than 10, and less than 10 publications, largely English, not vernacular. And there were only so many stories which they could cover. And within that would be divided into what they would be covering abroad, what they would be covering in India. So that's how it was. And for the rest who are interested in telling stories on food or anything, like even cricket, like Harsha Bogle was on saying about blogging in cricket, there was no avenue for you to go out and write. I mean, over the years, of course, I've written a book, The Traveling Belly. I've done columns for Femina India, Times of India, Indian Express, all of that. But all of this was not possible for someone earlier who didn't belong to either the food industry as a chef or as a journalist. What happened when blogs started which would be in India, the mid 2000s, is when the blogging movement started, was largely very different from what it is now. It was largely a lot of people in their late 20s and 30s and maybe early 40s who were doing something else, who were in some other career, or maybe they could have been housewives or scholars or professors or whatever, and they were looking for a creative outlet, and this thing called blog came up, and we started writing stories. And all of us at that time, our only ambition was to write a book. And I think most of us from that batch have written books. If you look at Rushina Munsho Gildyal, Sai Kurane Khandekar, Nandita Iyer, Sandeepa, who's in the US. So all of us from that batch, I think most of us have written books. So that was the objective. Now, at that time, the blog was meant to be a diary. So we were chronicling stories from our lives. So which would be either the food which you would eat, and most of us being like largely what one could call the middle class folks who are not eating at five-star hotels every day or in Switzerland. So, office canteens, local dhabas, hole in the wall places, the Moti Mahals and the Links pavilions, and the sort of places where we would eat, which would be different from places we would eat as students, of course, and about the things which we would cook. And again, what we would cook is what we were cooking for our families and with whatever was available. So it would be the food from our community, and that was what was being chronicled. And I strongly believe that that is what created an interest in regional Indian food. Then the next thing which happened was that mainstream publications also saw that there was value in that, and the accomplished, experienced senior writers started exploring these stories. Newspapers, publications started commissioning them. There were some TV shows on that. There were also websites which came up, like NDTV Food, Mint Lounge. There's some of them which also shut down since then, but which were focusing on the food beat. And all of this now started talking of regional Indian food. Then what happened in the early 2010-15 is when the first standalone restaurants started, which were focusing on regional Indian food. The Bombay Canteen, Masala Library, things like that. There were already five-star hotels who were doing it, but five-star hotels like, say, ITC, for example, were focusing on certain things like North India, Awadhi, or Frontier, which is actually like Afghani or Dakshin, South Indian. And also what happens is when there's something which happens in a five-star, it's a very restricted audience. It's only when it comes out of five stars in standalones and into the streets that it goes into, it becomes a movement. And that's when it became trendy and people understood that there's value in regional Indian food, then we suddenly realized that all our restaurants around us are regional Indian food. So what you'll get in Guwahati, what you'll get in Amritsar, what you'll get in Kolkata, Vijayawada, Mumbai, Nashik, all of that is you would get a bit of Punjabi food, bit of Chinese, bit of South Indian, and the rest is local. So regional Indian food is all over there. So I feel, and I think that all senior journalists, I think, respect that, appreciate that, and they have really encouraged all of us. And I think that now is the time for people in my generation to encourage the newcomers, because what happens is that every time there's a new social media avenue, because then there was Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Reels, and there's that. These are ways where the youth, the new generation, connect with each other, and they can bring across 1 billion stories, which earlier 5 newspapers and 2 TV channels couldn't. So I think it's a fabulous opportunity to use social media and to evolve with times. And the one thing is that the art of a storyteller, the art of storytelling, just as the art of cooking, is eternal, right? So the medium might change. So you might be cooking on a stove, a coal chula versus in an induction oven, but you will still be cooking. So similarly, whether it's on papyrus or whether it's in newspapers or whether it's in a real song or dance, you'll still be telling stories of food. So I feel that these are really, really exciting times ahead, and we are just on the tip of the iceberg. But I think we should stop lamenting the fact that we don't talk enough about regional food. Instead, we should just go ahead and carry this movement ahead. Thank you.
Very interesting. I think that brings me to Chef Gill now. And Chef Gill, you belong to an institution, or I would say a laboratory of gastronomy, I would say. because ITC hotels, I haven't seen any parallel hotel group to being so serious as ITC has been with its food. So, you name Bukhara, Dampuk, Kebab and Curry, and whatever you name, so many restaurants, each has a very distinctive kind of, tone to it. And this is only possible when a lot of research has gone into creating that food, and a lot of work. I mean, it's a serious work, I would say, that ITC has done in terms of food, and especially when people come to India, they are looking for popular Indian food, which is so diversified. And ITC, there's no better place than ITC to go for. So I would like to know that what is that kind of spark that brings a gastronom to a restaurant or attracts to an eatery, which ITC has mastered because it has all the capacity and the capability to attract everybody. So, Chef Gill, would you kindly throw some light on this, that what our students should sort of imbibe for? You'll have to unmute yourself, Chef Gill. You are muted at the moment. It's still muted.
Is it okay now?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much for a fantastic and very kind words in the introduction. And I think this question that's bothers me and concerns me a lot about this question, that somewhere in India, I'm sorry, some words maybe put diplomatically or differently, but I might put straight away. But upsets me that we people have no pride in our food, in our cuisine. And even the chefs also, we feel great pride to fusion our food with Italians and all those things. We are not able to keep the sensitivity or the character of our food. We change it. And there are many, many reasons. I don't know how much time you have, but there are many reasons for this. The most important is what your question is, that we have to understand Indian food. There is a difference between Indian food and the regional food, and that is the cookery. When we think in India about food, we start thinking from the cookery. And cookery is not the knowledge. Cookery is the result of the knowledge and the skills you have. One is to understand what is Indian food, what is the philosophy of Indian food, what is the theory of Indian food. And it is really, I also, with the time you get to understand the things, initially we also made many mistakes and all that, understood. You see, you can teach any subject without having a theory book on that. You think you can train a doctor just straight in the surgery room and teach them how to do surgery? In India, it's sad. On 7th October 2020, we don't have a theory book. We don't know how to teach them, students. And because we don't teach them, they don't think Indian food. They're the thinkers of international food. Because we teach the theory of international food to them. So they start thinking of the international everything. So it is very important to protect our cuisine, to protect our heritage, and protect the knowledge of our food, which we can disseminate to the whole world and make their food better. Or they can follow the Indian philosophy, Indian theory, or the Indian science of cookery and make their food even more palatable and much more variety and all that, not cooking only few methods of cooking and few things and few sauces here and there. And that's why they have, because they don't have that much of knowledge, so that's why they need to do to their food a lot of architecture on the plate to create the variety, to create the things. because the repertoire is so small. But Indian food, there is an umbrella which is wealth of knowledge and an understanding of the food, and after that the diversity starts. That umbrella, the wealth of knowledge, is common, followed throughout India. That's why it's called Indian food. Otherwise, there is something called Indian food. The cookery which is come into the plate, which you eat, is a regional food. But to cook that regional food, you have to understand the complete science of Indian food. That's very, very important. That is where we are missing. That is where we as a community have to work on that. And that's why we talk about many things happen, but the result doesn't come because we don't know what to teach. In the hotel schools, we don't have, in any case, we don't have the good culinary school where we create the food and beverage people, or the chefs, or the thinkers on food and beverage and the chefs. We try to create them through the hotel school, which is not easy. We know as a chefs that how much difficulty we had in the industry to understand and to gather the knowledge, and it took years and years. And the change is very slow. So in ITC also, incidentally, because we were focused on the Indian food, like I'm a chef from was that time so-called continental food, and worked only under the Austrian and the Swiss and chefs initially in my training and all that, and used to feel great pride. I went to Cornell to do some courses, and they asked me, chef, let's cook Indian food. And as a foolish man, I said, chef, I don't know how to cook it, but I know French food. But the next question from them is, where you did training in France? I said, never lived there, never gone there. See, this is how we create the chefs in our country. That is the biggest, that is why our food is so good. The wealth of knowledge behind our food is so good. By default, we are going up and up every year in the market. But it's not in a structured and thoughtful way. It is not. So we have to do a lot of things to do that. Unless you don't understand the food, you can't be creative. And particularly the traditional food. In the traditional food, innovation is when it has it's synced with the traditions. It cannot be, innovation is such that it doesn't have a character of a region. So to keep the character of the region, you must do the innovations, because food has to change with the time. Food has to change, but it has a linkage. It is syncing with the traditions. So that's the innovation in our food we should do. We should get into the technology. We should get into as modern as possible, but we should be able to differentiate from the region to region. We should be able to do that. So I'm only saying that definitely regional food is fantastic. It's such a big repertoire. And I think every chef should, whatever you cook, I'm not against that you work in Italian restaurant or French, you must. That gives you great exposure. You can think even better. You can think about your own food, but every chef must be trained in his own. That's the beauty of Indian chefs. And more you know about mother cuisine, better cook you will be, whether you cook any international food. Because a lot of rudiments, a lot of basics, you can learn only from your own mother cuisine. Because the terminology is very different in your own food. It's so simple to state that you can understand to put it into practice and apply it and see the results and how good they are. So it's very, very important. We were talking about the regional food and all that. So every chef must be a master of his own regional food, his own mother cuisine. Then the rest of the cooking you do is a extra knowledge and extra bonus and earn money or do what you want to do. And a lot of practices I have seen. I went to in Italy, Alamata Italian school, fantastic Italian school. I offered them, we can have an exchange program of the students. They will learn about some Indian food. They will learn from Italian food. Let's have a change. He said, no way. Italian students have to be internship training in Italy. Cannot be outside Italy. Otherwise, we lose our people. We will lose the authenticity of our food. So training is only in Italy. See, this is how the people are protecting their food. And I think there's one more, even as a tourist also, and as a gastronomy, I think it was topic on gastronomy tourism. But China has started, Italy have started, other countries are also doing it. They are doing the World Chinese Festival in the China. They have World Italian Festival in Italy, where they invite all expat Italian chefs to come over there and get exposed to the things which has happened in Italy. Know the real food, so that we will go back and carry the more understanding and training and expose themselves, go back to the other countries and show your food in a better way. So we should do those kind of things. We can have a World Cup or World something of Indian food, get the restaurant owners, all the chefs from all over the world, do this event, and lot of tourists will come, lot of people will come, and our chefs will go back with great knowledge and the message, and they will prove their cooked food much better in their own countries. The image of Indian food will become much better. So in ITC, we work a lot understanding the basic food. We definitely work with a lot of consultants, and with consultants we used to have, and still we have, the people who know the food, and they can give us some ideas. Now, tell us some basics. And then we get inspired from that, and then we create our food. But inspiration has to come from a regional people who knows the food and tell you the stories about food and tell you how the things used to happen and all that. And then the intelligent chefs, they can convert those things into a dish or into a plate and become very different. Like many of the things you must have seen that in our restaurant, they exactly might not be available in the same region, but they have the character. They have the character of that. But it's inspired from that, and we did it. In our Royal Vega, the vegetarian restaurant is also pan-Indian, but it's inspired from many, many dishes, from many regions. So it is very important to understand the food and the theory of the food. Then only you can do the application into the practical. And that is what is missing in India. And I think we should do it. And it's not possible for one person to do it. It is a community, as the universities, as the educational institutes had to come forward, the government, the local administrations for the regional food had to come forward and give the knowledge, empower the people who are in the front and cooking, and make the food destinations for tourism. So that's what I want to say, that the knowledge has to be gathered and disseminated to the people down the line. And that's what ITC did for many, many years internally.
I think very pertinent point that you mentioned, Chef, because we probably are not taking pride in our own cuisine, and we are sort of drifting towards Italian and Thai and French or whatever. And probably this could be one of the reasons that when the students come to the culinary institutions or hotel management institutions, join food and production programs, we are probably unable to give them enough knowledge to be proud of their own cuisine. That's one point. And then international projection obviously will suffer. So that takes me to now Chef Sudhir Sibal on the same note, where Chef Gill left. That Chef Sudhir Sibal, I'm not seeing you only as a chef, but I'm seeing you as a judge who's judging so many competitions which have become the sort of norm today. We have our own versions of many master chefs in India. So, and plus so many local level culinary competitions that are going on. So what, in your opinion, and also I'm seeing you as a journalist who's the editor of Cuisine Digest. So how Cuisine Digest, how you as a chef, because you have all these three hats on you, so how are you working towards inculcating this pride among people for Indian cuisine, one, and then how do you see Indian cuisine going places internationally through the efforts that your B2B magazine or a journal that you run, which is Cuisine Digest, or the competitions that you judge? So when you judge a competition, do participants actually come up with some sort of simple Indian meal to be judged, or are they coming up with their own innovations or international? Over to you, Sudhir Sibal ji.
Thank you, Prateek ji, for a very nice introduction. First of all, I would like to congratulate the organizers for organizing such a event, a webinar on a topic which has been neglected for. It's something new at the moment, which needs a lot of attention, not only from the industry, but also from the government as well as from the academia. Coming back to this topic first, and then we come back to Cuisine Digest, or we can talk about Cuisine Digest first, is a magazine which was started. We felt, the chef felt that there is a gap in the industry where you can get good magazine, cooking magazine, or good sharing knowledge with the chef. So Chef Gill and myself decided to go in for such a thing, and we came up with Cuisine Digest, and we wanted to bring it to that level of an international level. So what we did was we got together the top the world chef president into it. We had the club, the chef, there was a founder with us. We had the wine and the spirit experts. So from various fields, diverse fields, like you have the panel today here, such a diverse panel, we also have a great panel from which goes into the food history, food columns, and these are the chefs themselves writing in it, most of them. So this has about 68 to 54 pages, which include topics on the international scene. We always cover a place where international cuisine is concerned. We take up a country and a region, and where the chefs come out with their own version of their dishes. We have the photographs and the recipes also over there. And then, of course, one of the regions which we pick up every time. So it could be Bihar, it could be Odisha, it could be Garhwal, it could be any Karnataka, and we keep on carrying it from one region to another, where there's experts, the chefs work on it. They come out with a recipe, the local recipe, and that is introduced in the magazine. Apart from this, we are taking up an ingredient every time, of course, an Indian ingredient, which is from the Indian cuisine, which is promoted again worldwide. How is it being used by the Indian in the Indian context as well as in the world cuisine context? Of course, one of the area is the entrepreneur chef, in which we take Indian chefs who have been able to establish good restaurants abroad. So we have taken chefs from Washington, London, Singapore, and all those, and just one Michelin star restaurant, and of course from Bangkok as well. So that's another way of sharing knowledge with the culinary experts, the food and beverage operators, as well as the students. Apart from this, we have a little bit of news which we carry it every time. So this is as far as the magazine is concerned. Of course, we have a portion on bakery, on patisserie. Of course, we take Indian patisserie also into it, and then we have a section on the beverages. Now, this is we're talking about Cuisine Digest. Coming back to your question on the gastronomy tourism, this is a topic which has been neglected for quite some time. I feel though people have tried to, make use of this tourism by bringing certain foods. I still remember a chef, a colleague of ours, working has two restaurants in Washington. He brought, of course, he's a South Indian from Kerala. He brought a few of the, gastronomy people who were interested in this connoisseurs gourmets to India and took them to South India, Kerala, backwaters, and he treated them with demonstrations and history of food, like Ashish Chopra has said or Karmakar has said. And there's another one from Toronto who was again a chef who used quite a popular celebrity chef. Chefs who were involved and were able to. But at the same time, there are some travel agencies also working on it. But I see they have all been working in different, in their own sectors. But a joint effort by the government of India, getting the travel trade, the industry, the chefs, the historians, the bloggers, the hotel management institute, and of course the local places where this product is being promoted. The effort like having a international mango festival by the Delhi Tourism a few years back. It's a regular annual event. But this is a place where you could come and have enjoy the variety of mangoes, the dishes made out of it, the items which can be, and there are seminars and people come specially to have this. You're trying out mangoes, various mangoes during this period. Similarly, in the tea gardens of Assam or the coffee in South in Karnataka or the spice board in Kerala. Then, of course, we have even saffron in Pampur. These are the places where there's certain season when these are harvested, and that is a time when you need, you need to promote that. The restaurants, the caterers, they start working on it. They promote. They come up with different items out of the same product, the item, and that is how it is promoted. People specially come to visit and try out those dishes. This has been popular, the gastronomy tourism in certain places in Europe and America, but it is very nascent in India. But I think the hotel management institutes can become a hub for this. The agencies have now coming up, like the FSSI has come out with certain food hubs, street food hubs, and they have started patronizing or certifying that. They've done recently in Ahmedabad, two of these, one in Surat, another in Indore. Indore itself has become a street food hub now. Lucknow is another place. Hyderabad is another place where people could come and just enjoy food and they come out and stay there. Then, of course, Rajasthan and Gujarat, the Chokidhani and the other places, these sorts of things should be encouraged so that tourists, not only international, even Indian, like we were talking of people not aware of the regional cuisine, regional food, the richness of regional food, the variety which we have, the benefits which it has, the history about these food items. These have been neglected so far. They have not been promoted. I think this is the time we should, make use of it. Of course, like in the introduction, you said about the pandemic, people have now got used to cooking at home, trying out different dishes. This is, I'm quite sure that people will start after the pandemic, would start coming out and trying out various cuisine because they have started enjoying food now. It used to be when you are in your office, you just have your lunch break or your meal. It is a part of your daily. But if you are at home and you are cooking yourself, the enjoyment you get, the satisfaction you get, it is more of a meditation. The food which you cook yourself and then you enjoy that, or you give it to, or people who consume that are satisfied with your the food, then the satisfaction which you get, the contentment which is there is really very exotic. Uh, I think we need to get all these agencies together, the academia, the travel trade, the chefs, the restaurant owners, the municipality. We need to be working with them because it has to be neat and clean and hygienically because you're serving to so many people, not only Indian but even foreigners also, and restrict and take your pride in the food, whichever you are cooking. If it has to be served on a banana leaf, it has to be served that way. If it has to be eaten by hand, it has to be. And like we do it in Bukhara or a frontier restaurant, people eat food with the hand, and it is expected. Whether it's in a five-star deluxe hotel or you are eating in a gurdwara, you eat it with hand only. You don't need to ask for cutlery and crockery for that. So similarly, I think we need to encourage that. Let people enjoy the food the way it is. And I see a lot of future in the gastronomy tourism. And I look forward to your organization to take it forward to the government and to the industry as well. I think these sorts of webinars will certainly bring about the change in the mindset of people and the people in power. Thank you.
Very interesting, Chef. So basically, you're talking about the ecosystem that has to be developed now and the synergy that has to be worked if we have to sort of popularize the gastronomy tourism and bring it to a particular level. So that's one part of it. And yes, interestingly, you mentioned about Hyderabad, which is now in UNESCO's Creative City of Gastronomy. And Hyderabad and Lucknow, by the way, were competing, and some issues happened, and Hyderabad took it away from us. So that's a very important point. But I also, before I go to Sonal, I also want to leave you with a question which you can ponder upon, you and Chef Gill and everybody, that why don't we Indians have our own Michelin star? And probably why doesn't your magazine be the front runner in devising some sort of a Michelin star for Indian cuisine and giving it to even a dhabawala or a humble stalls selling any chana or whatever, So just a thought that I wanted to put here. Now, Sonal, let me come back to you. Your profession is very interesting. You are connecting home chefs, you are connecting homes, you are bringing out cuisine that is served in different homes, which is very, very unique, not only royalty, but people who are passionate about cooking can have food through your contacts. You form groups and you travel with those groups, and those groups get to eat. I mean, this at one point of time, I tell you, in 1994, I was conducting food walk. That probably was India's first food walk that my company had started then. And people were really very jittery about stopping at the kebab stalls or stopping at the makkan malai wala or, and having it. I mean, I'm talking in terms of foreigners. So even the travel agents and tour operators were quite jittery. But now food walks and your home cooking sessions and all these are so popular. So when the students come in and they join the program in food production or culinary art or whatever you may call, they only think that we can only be chefs in hotels, which is a traditional route for any student to think, for that matter. But how do you put it as that my question would be that what is the wow that differentiates between a home cooking experience or a home chef or a homely cuisine, whatever you call it, between that and a meal served at maybe the finest restaurant in the country? specialty restaurant as well. So that is one part of the question. The other part is that if I am aspiring to start some kind of a business or float some kind of open my home to people, what are the points that you have come across which people should keep in mind before doing that, or the problems that you have faced at homes? Over to you, Sonal.
Thank you so much. So before I actually come to your question, there are three things which I wanted to discuss, and I'm going to take this opportunity to take extracts from Dr. Ashish Chopra and Chef Gill. You know, there are three things why we started our organization. And those are actually, I feel, the pillars of today's cuisine platform across the world. One of them being the pride in your own culture, in your own cuisine. You know, even today, if you go to any part of the world, you will find Indian food, you know, but you're going to find only few dishes which have been marketed well. You're not going to find what we call the authentic Indian food or the regional food. You're going to get the butter chicken everywhere. You will get the tandoori naan everywhere, and you're going to get all of that everywhere. But the point, it is a diluted version of the cuisine. The second thing is that the marketing of the cuisine. You know, so the marketing of the cuisine really is very, very important. I'll take an example, not really related to food, but when Amitabh Bachchan started promoting Gujarat the way he promoted on television and that ad came, people got excited going to Gujarat. How many people were excited before that of just going to the Bhuj? You know, so the point is that we need to understand that before we go to home chefs, because the food, it is well established, it exists well, and it is the matter of every individual's taste and every individual's way of cooking. And like Dr. Chopra said, it changes in every household. It changes in every region of India. It depends on the climate of that place. Now, keeping all these factors in mind, we said we need to actually go to the source of the food. If the source of the food lies in a particular city, we will go there and start promoting that. And then we said, okay, of course, the restaurants and the hotels are doing a good job in the space that they are operating in, but let's go authentic. Let's go to the mummy ji and the papa ji and the people who are actually cooking it there, and the taste that we still remember while we are traveling or going anywhere in the country. Why do we, you know, every time we start comparing, you know, ye waisa nahi hai, you know, it's not as good as that. So we need to establish the food, like Chef Gill said, there is no history written of, the cuisine of India. So who's going to write that history? Because it is so diverse, we have to go to the root. So that is why we went to homes and we went to the royalty. Because you'll be surprised if you go to, for instance, a Raza library in Rampur, or you go to a Kanota castle in Jaipur. These are people who have, say, thousands and thousands of recipe books out there, well-written recipe books. The only problem with those recipe books are they're not like the French cuisine. They will say, chatak bar itna dal dena or itna sa muthi bar ye le lena. You know, unfortunately, that is the problem with the way our cuisine has been written. If we were to correct that piece of it, you know, I think we do have a lot of repository. You know, so just as we talk about the palaces and the forts, we can also talk about the cuisine, the historical cuisine of India, which of course has to be a matter of pride for us. So that is why it is taking us to the locals and to the different places, all parts of India. So every home, every palace becomes our possible restaurant, you know. And now coming back to your question, what is needed for it to become a restaurant? What is needed for anybody to start open their house and say, okay, let's call in people? Indians as such are known to be, very hospitable people. We have a culture of Atithi Devo Bhava. But the problem with that culture is also there, you know. The problem is that हम घर पे लोगों को बुलाएंगे, we will make them sit and eat and we'll look at them. Now, you know, if somebody is coming from US, somebody is coming from Europe, they are in a culture where everybody sits and eats together. I am not going there to eat so that I become conscious when somebody is looking at me, you know. So there is a bit of cultural change which needs to come, and cultural change not from the ethos of it, but the fact that when you're calling in people, and these are people who are traveling from various parts, the reason they are coming into homes or palaces is because they want to know your story. You know, every food, every dish, every meal has a story to tell. So that is what they're interested in. And that's why our experiences hence become different, because each one has a story to tell. You know, and that I think is something which is a matter of training. When you have to tell these people that, you know, while you're a great chef, while you're a great cook, but you also have to be a good host. You know, like why are some chefs more popular on TV, whereas there be some very, very technical good chefs who may not be as popular, but they are actually at times, sorry, I'm not trying to offend somebody here, but they may be better at times. You know, the fact is that you need to market yourself, unfortunately. So that is where we see some of the home chefs who have literally taken the whole country by storm. I remember going to Assam, for instance, and there was this chef I met who became one of our chefs from Kokrajhar. To be honest, I never knew there was a place called Kokrajhar, very close to Guwahati. And he worked in a government setup. Excellent chef, I mean, excellent home cook, so to say. Today, he's become a judge, he comes on the TV, he does all sorts of things, you know, over a period of 3 to 4 years. And he's doing that sitting at home. He's not opened a restaurant. So there's no brick and mortar sort of a model involved there. So really for all the, the students who, unfortunately, because of the pandemic and the, the way industry is trying to come to terms with it and the new norms and how to get back onto feet and become a thriving business, I think it somewhere there lies an opportunity for these students to first start taking pride in their cuisine. That is the most important. Get into the basics, understand the technicalities of it, because that is what is going to make you survive. And that is what is going to really be, you're going to be known for that. You're not going to be known if you copied a good French, recipe from a particular book. You'll be known for what your art is. So they need to learn these things and then be able to market that. That is the most important. And that's where institution and, bodies like yours and of course, Government of India, it's very, very important that they realize that and they instill that within the students and within everybody actually, and before I round up, I'm going to take one more example. In 2015, I visited the World Food Expo in Milan, where every possible country participated. Unfortunately, India did not participate that time there because of the whole marine controversy which was going on. You'll be surprised that I'm sure some of you may have visited the expo I'm talking about. There were lakhs and lakhs of people who went there. The airline, the official airline of Italy, was carrying the brochure, the World Food Expo brochure, for every flight for the longest period of time. For almost 4 or 5 months, they were carrying that brochure. They were popularizing it, marketing it so well. So every hotel carried that brochure that there is a World Food Expo happening. They created a big hype. They created an interest so that people from across the world came in there. And like some of the panelists said, that we need to have something like that happening in India. Why always India need to visit another country? We need to create a platform like that. Of course, with the help of the Government of India, they have to participate in a platform like this and call in the people there, the Indian chefs who've gone across the world, call in chefs from other cuisines, and essentially make it a platform which the world sees. And that, of course, will get in more pride in the students when they choose, the cuisine as their, specialization. and then of course take it forward. So I think those are the key things which the students really need to look at.
Yeah, great inputs. And I was just pondering upon, we talked about regional cuisine, we talked about tribal cuisine, and there's a community cuisine as well. So your surname Saxena brings me to the Kayast cuisine, which is so popular and probably unknown to so many of us. So that's an interesting cuisine array as well. We could have talked about it in detail. We also have on the panel young
Gill has a question. Sorry. I think Chef Gill has a question.
Maybe later, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can come in. You can come in, then we'll go to Sonal. Yes, come in, Chef.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say, there's one which, issue which keep, when we talk about, like, Sonal has explained everything so well. But the thing is, we, come down to recipes. I'm saying if we want to make Indian food popular, Indian food is based on the knowledge. Indian food is based on a science.
Yes.
The world want to know about science. If they don't want to learn the recipes and go and cook the recipe. Even in Indian, it is very easy. People say, we have no standard recipes for Indian food. We cannot have. That's not our philosophy. Our philosophy is, and our fundamentals, our guidelines of Ayurveda and otherwise, they are written so beautifully. And after they say you learn all these things, now you are free to cook the food the way you want to cook it because you understood the science. Now that food will be cooked according to local flora and fauna and the climate and according to the physiology of the diner. Now, that is why we don't have standard recipes. That is why how food, as Dr. Ashish Chopra said, it changes house to house. Because the physiology is changing. The constitution is changing of the people. So the food changes. But the fundamentals, the guideline doesn't change. They remain. That's why so-called Indian food. So we must work on the science. People want to know the science. See, recipe, you cannot tell people it's a wellness recipe. Now that wellness has to be linked with the science or the theory of the book, theory of the Indian food. And our food, it is so beautifully done and written also. And as even it is relevant today, because our food is evolved on two pillars. One is wellness and other is sustainability. These are the two things which are needed today. People have started talking now. Our ancestors have written these things thousands of years back. Absolutely. And they say, now be creative. Be creative. Cook what you want to cook.
Sure.
Cook from your mind. Don't cook from the recipe. And in any case, that is my experience also, if slavishly you follow the recipe, is always a disaster. A good cooking creates a good recipe. A recipe never creates a good food. So that is the knowledge India has. That's a different thing. We need a lot of cooperation, no doubt. Local municipalities, universities, schools, colleges, the local associations of food merchants on the street, then the government, then the ministry. Somewhere our government and ministry are very busy in talking about the poor and the poor food and all that, and doesn't give any importance to the basic food, which is the wealth of, which is the biggest soft power of this country. We must work on this.
I think very important point.
Prateek, can I just,
let's go more deeper into the food. Come out from the recipes.
Prateek, can I just quickly make a point?
Yes, Kalyanji.
Yes, because I want to make a poster of Chef Manjit Gill with this line saying, come out of the recipe. Because, we were talking of storytelling and gastronomy. And I just feel that there's a lot of disservice being done to the wealth of Indian knowledge, wealth of Indian food by this excessive focus on recipes, whether it's books, TV shows, columns, everything is on recipes. Now, the thing is that what is a story? A story is something you want to sit back and enjoy and immerse yourself and use yourself in. Now, you can sit back and read a book by, say, say maybe Anthony Bourdain or Veer Sang, which is on the culture. You can't sit back and read this with 2 tablespoon tel dalo, फिर thoda sa kalo jeera dalo, then mirchi lanka jeera dalo. So, there's an interest in the science of Indian food. There's a lot of interest in India as a country. And India as a country means India's history, no doubt, but India's present. And, there's a lot of interest in India. And there's a lot of interest in China. Now, about China, no one can know anything. But about India, we can tell so many stories for food. So I would, we've been speaking a lot of chefs and restaurants, but I would urge all storytellers to think and go beyond recipes. I think till then, we will not go out of the box.
Yes, I think
so that's something which I want to do.
About this, we are all on the same page.
We should follow the fundamentals. We must understand, follow them. Follow the guidelines. You see, we have a great chapter in our gastronomy, incompatible food. If we don't understand that, we are doing the wrong combinations, like the Western world is doing it, and not able to find out that what is wrong with the food. But there is the incompatibility of food. So these are the chapters. There are, it's so fantastically it is mentioned in our food, in our science. They've given 17 or 18, which is the food to be followed. You know what is the top one? Top one is Kal Virodha. Kal means the time period. The food should not be against the period with the time, means climate seasonal food. These are the things written. Today people have invented or created, you should have seasonal food. It is not today. In thousands of years it's written there.
I mean, take example of the slow cooking.
If you know that, your food automatically become food for wellness and sustainability.
I think it's about bringing out these facts.
Beautifully done everything in our. That's my, I'm concerned that we must forget about the recipes.
We are all on the same page about this, and very interesting points that Chef Gill you said about. Now, let me come to a young chef in the making, whom we are looking forward to, and we have Kavya with us, who's studying at the Welcome Group School of Hotel Administration in Manipal. And Kavya, by the way, this was an institution where I was first admitted to, but simultaneously I got admission at the IHM as well. So my father said that this was too expensive for him to send me to the Welcome Group School. So he brought me back from Manipal. And he admitted me because the kind of fees was a little fancy for those days. So I always wish that I studied in that institution, and I could have been a part of that culinary sort of an institutional journey that ITC Welcome Group is known for. But Kavya, you being a student of hotel management and specializing in food production. So let me just focus, Kavya, on your food production part. That having heard people who are doyens in the industry and whom you have always probably looked upon or you have only read about, and you aspire to be one of those, what as a student you think that should be taught to you apart from the books and apart from the curriculum that the institution follows? Over to you, Kavya.
Thank you so much, sir, for the question. I feel really honored to be a part of this discussion with such esteemed panelists. So to answer your question, what I particularly think is that in accordance to what Chef Gill had said, it is very important that each one of us who are studying, and even the curriculum as it is, I think it's really important that we focus more on what India is about and the cuisine that it brings. In accordance to what all of you have said and with the points that I could imbibe, there was one thing that was resonating, and that was the wealth that this country has. And I couldn't be more, and that couldn't actually be more true, because that's what it is, and that's what we as a country are about. Since the first year, second year, third and fourth year, or just say a 3-year degree in one of the IHMs, we are always taught about, the first lesson that's always taught to us is about French cuisine and the mother sauces. So that's the first thing that they teach us. So likewise, why don't we actually learn our mother culinary subject? Why don't we actually give a lot more attention to it? And that's one thing where I feel we actually need to make a change, and a major change, because we actually need more people, or more chefs, teachers, consultants who would actually encourage us to be a part of this cuisine, to be pioneers in this cuisine, to study this cuisine. There's only one Gagan Anand right now, but then there could actually be a lot more. And personally, I also feel that when we are taught to intern in restaurants, we're taught to intern in 5 stars, but to actually learn the technicalities of the cuisine, to actually imbibe the cooking techniques, I think we as students or budding chefs should also be encouraged to why not take up an internship, or why not learn from those people, or or go to the roots of a cuisine. Why not, let's just say, why not go to a really authentic dhaba to learn the intricacies of a Punjabi cuisine? Or why not do something like that? Because that's when people will actually, or students like me, will actually realize what this whole industry is about, or what Indian cuisine is all about. So that's where I particularly feel that we need to, if not sooner or later, that's where we actually need to see a change coming.
Well, I think very important point, because if you are being taught French cuisine or any other cuisine, that how do you understand the intricacies of the Indian cuisine? And by the way, just adding on to, as a student, I'm telling you that all the great chefs actually learned the best cooking methods going to dhabas. So you can always do that. No one is stopping you. And you can go to homes, you can go to dhabas, you can go to street side vendors and learn the art. So wish we had a lot of time on this panel, but we promised that we should be planning another panel exclusively to highlight Indian cuisine and not only gastronomy tourism. So this is time to part, and sadly we have to. But a panel is always successful. A panel discussion, I would say, is always successful when we part with not only answers but also certain questions. So I'm sure that we have answered most of the questions, but we have also created some questions as well. So gastronomy is a subject which is always close to everyone's heart. I mean, it said that food is actually the way to our hearts. So you can understand that how close gastronomy, and nobody can say that he doesn't like gastronomy or he doesn't like to eat food. So that is one part of it. But we really had a great discussion on gastronomy tourism, and especially the drawings that we had on this panel, which is a very envious panel for other such discussions which might happen in the same league. So without giving a closing remark, because the discussion was so enlightening that I don't want to cover it up with any kind of brief or closing remarks, I just want to end it by thanking all my panelists, Chef Manjit Gill, Mr. Arun Singh, Ashish Chopra, Chef Sudhir Sibal, Kalyan Karmakar, Sonal Saxena, and to you as well, Kavya. It's very nice to be here.
You have to give me 30 seconds. You have to give me 30 seconds, please.
We'd love to. Please.
Yeah, because she picked up a very, very sensitive, very, very important point, and I don't want to miss unless to mentor that thing. See, that is the reason I say that all young chefs must learn their mother cuisine. Like you want to work on the dhabas, it will be difficult to go and work in a Punjabi dhaba for you, maybe, if you are not a Punjabi. It is good if you go find out the dhaba of your mother cuisine. because language is not a problem, because food is a cultural issue. Food is not only a classroom learning, it's a culture. So you find out that which is of your cuisine, where the language is not a problem, the ingredients available at home all the time. You can do experiment as much possible. Food is expensive to experiment. Food is lying there. In the family, everybody is expert or they are used to taste that food. They can give you the right comments, they have better taste. What will happen? That you will get the absolutely right inputs and your things will become better and better day by day. And once you have a confidence about that, I can challenge you, you can cook any food. Okay, so don't find out find out your food. If nothing else, then talk to Sonal and find out a home chef to learn of your food, so that you learn, easy to experiment, easy to share knowledge, easy to consume the food, and easy to get the expertise. That's all. I just wanted to say that.
So we have a takeaway as well from this discussion, which very beautifully, Chef Gill, you have summed up for students, that it's nothing is stopping you. You can always go and learn from it. And of course, as a Punjabi, no one can separate you from food. So I do recognize, and everybody recognizes that a Punjabi cannot be separated from his food. So on that note, we wind up this discussion. And once again, thank you to all of you for being on this panel. Thank you very much.
Full session, and I'm highly thankful to all our eminent panelists for their insightful and thoughtful addresses, and also to the viewers of this session. I'm sure that the takeaways of the session will enthuse confidence among students and young professionals during the current testing times towards the new normal. We have a surprise for you all attendees. Scan the QR code on your screens with your mobile phones and answer 10 questions in 10 minutes. You will get to win prizes and surprise gifts. And I shall see you in the next session.